Hello there, you're watching Left, Right and Centre on NDTV. I'm Maha Siddiqui. Our focus tonight, ahead of the yet-to-be-announced Gujarat Assembly polls, the state government has decided to set up a committee to implement the Uniform Civil Code, UCC. The outgoing cabinet has moved a proposal to constitute a committee along the lines of the one in Uttarakhand. This committee will be headed by a retired High Court judge and will evaluate all aspects of implementing the Uniform Civil Code in the state. The Gujarat Home Minister Harsh Sanghvi announced the move in a press conference today. The move has led the opposition to cry foul. The general perception being that this is a political move ahead of the elections to polarize voters. Union Minister Purushottam Rupala has said that this has been a long-standing demand of the BJP and it is only fulfilling each promise one at a time, from the Ram Mandir to Article 370 and now the UCC. So the question we ask, could this move help the BJP not just retain power but make it a big win in a state it's been holding for 27 years? Is this a political move ahead of elections? But before we dive into our debate, let me bring in Faizan Mustafa, legal scholar and former Vice-Chancellor of the Nalsar University of Law in Hyderabad. Many thanks for speaking with us. First of all, Gujarat is the next state after Uttarakhand to form a committee to implement UCC. But wouldn't UCC be in contravention of the constitution that guarantees certain religious freedoms in the country?
While Article 25 and 26 do talk of freedom of religion of all human beings, it is not confined to just Indian citizens. And that shows the broad-mindedness of the members of the Constituent Assembly, that anyone who is in India, whether he is an Indian or a foreigner, has an equal freedom of religion. Then there was a debate that should we also include within right to religion an exception that the state will not impose a uniform civil code or would protect personal laws. Such a proposal was mooted in the Constituent Assembly and it was rejected.
Okay.
And subsequently, Uniform Civil Code provision was included in the directive principles, which you know are not justiciable. Nobody can go to the court of law if the government does not implement directive principles. There are many directive principles which are in fact not talked about. And today I would say that the foremost amongst them is that there should be no concentration of wealth and the national resources should be so distributed as to subserve the common good. But you know, 1% people in India are having over 70% of wealth. We have talked about only two directive principles, the cow protection provision and the Uniform Civil Code. Having said that, I would say that we should still go to the entry number 5 of the concurrent list, where the framers of the Constitution have really put the personal laws. They have not given this power only to the Parliament. Had the intention been to have just one law, it should have been included in the union list. Okay. The mere fact that the personal laws are included in the concurrent list means that different states can have different personal laws.
Okay. But Faizan Mustafa, if the idea of bringing the Uniform Civil Code is noble to create gender parity, for instance, as is argued by some, then and if it's not a political move, shouldn't this move be staggered to bring in certain contentious issues under uniformity, like for instance maintenance, adoption, inheritance?
I have consistently been writing on this, that if you go for Uniform Civil Code, as Professor Bernard Mensky had written, that should you abolish polygamy even if there is bloodshed, and his answer was no, you shouldn't do it. So if Uniform Civil Code in one go is going to polarize our society, to create unnecessary disputes in the society, I have been writing on this and my position has been consistent position that reforms in personal laws should be done in a piecemeal way. as you are saying that in one go we can reform the maintenance law, then the marriage law, then the divorce law, then the inheritance law. It is better to do it in small doses rather than coming up, a wholesale reform in one go, which are very difficult. It is always easy to reform the laws of the majority. And that's why the Muslim countries were able to reform Muslim laws, but Pakistan, for instance, was not able to reform the Hindu law. And in India, Pandit Nehru was able to reform the Hindu law, but was not able to reform the Muslim law because he said, let the initiative of the reform should come from the community. But I think if the community is slow in responding, then the government will be within its rights to set up a committee, but that committee should consist of real scholars of that subject.
But Faizan Mustafa, since there are apprehensions, can such a move be challenged in court? Is that even possible legally and constitutionally?
Anything about directive principles will not be accepted by the court. Number of petitions have been filed in the court, and the court said we cannot give the directive. Recently, the government of India filed an affidavit, and the Ministry of Law and Justice of the Union Law Ministry has taken a position that this is the directive principles. The prerogative is of the Parliament. You see, since Article 44 is also saying that a uniform civil code will be for all citizens throughout the territory of India. How can one state pass a law which will be applicable, say, in the neighboring state of Maharashtra or Madhya Pradesh? So if at all, and that has been the consistent position of the BJP, except during Vajpayee's government when they left out three contentious issues of Babri Masjid 370 and UCC and had put them in cold storage, BJP's consistent position has been that we want a uniform civil code. And therefore, if they set up a committee or they make even it a political issue, I think they are justified in doing that. My problem is how come the minorities on their own and the Muslims organizations or the Muslim Personal Law Board has not all these decades taken any initiative to do the internal law reform. Say if the government today asked them to draft a code of their choice, it would be very difficult for them to put up a draft. There is a draft. What kind of changes Muslims are willing to do it? Because, there are many reforms which can be done by remaining within the Islamic fold. You have liberal schools and you have regressive conservative schools. So on many things, if you do inter-school borrowing, you would be able to do some substantive reforms within the Muslim law. So that has not been done. So I would also blame the Muslim community and the Muslim leadership for not taking initiative. Just opposing uniform civil code, will not help, because once the provision is there in the constitution, you can't delay it, forever.
All right. Faizan Mustafa, we'll leave it at that. Many thanks for joining us here. Let's now open up our debate. Joining me on the show, Majid Memon, Senior Advocate, Supreme Court, former Rajya Sabha member, as well as Naishadh Desai, spokesperson of the Gujarat Congress. He'll be joining us shortly as well. Pramila Nesargi, leader of the BJP and advocate herself. Ashwini Dubey, advocate of the Supreme Court. He speaks in favor of the BJP. Syed Asad Abbas, political analyst who speaks in favor of the Aam Aadmi Party. Majid Memon, sir, I want to come first to you. Purushottam Rupala has said today that I'm quoting him, we've been making some demands from our days of youth, from Ram Janmabhoomi to the abrogation of Article 370 and the Uniform Civil Code. My question to you then, sir, is can the BJP be targeted by the opposition for this move today, being a political one and timed ahead of elections?
See, the news that the Honorable Chief Minister of Gujarat has suggested to set up a panel for the purposes of bringing in Article 44 of the Constitution of India, that is Uniform Civil Code, and it has given, she opened the Pandora box of all kinds of debates on all channels. We are hearing all political, social, legal, and all impact of the proposal which has just been initiated by the Chief Minister. Now let us understand, the Chief Minister calling upon or rather informing that he has set up a panel does not by itself mean that Uniform Civil Code will become applicable. You see,
Sure,
let
yes.
him set up a panel, let the panel examine the constitutional niceties of bringing in Article 44 of the Constitution of India as far as state of Gujarat is concerned for making a state law. Now, let me tell your viewers that plainly, where does this Uniform Civil Code find place in the Constitution of India? It finds place in Part 4 of the Constitution, just after the fundamental rights. It's under the caption of Directive Principles of State Policy. The Article 44, is precisely, has been in Constitution from 1950 onwards. It has not been introduced now. 75 years we have lived in a democracy. BJP has ruled for several years. 27 years now BJP has been ruling in different states.
So that is why I posed that question, that are they then well within their rights to make a move of this nature? Will it be difficult for the opposition to call it a political move?
I would request you to permit me a couple of minutes, then I will take a leave. I won't sit in the discussion now with others. I am here only to express myself. I was never told that there is going to be a debate.
Sure, go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
I was told Mustafa and myself will be there. Now there are 3 other politicians, so I won't want to interact on other side. Permit me to express myself, and I'll take your leave and go away. Now, what I wanted to convey to your viewers is that, you see, it is desirable. If you read exactly, I would invite through you the Chief Minister of Gujarat himself, if you can hear me, kindly read Article 44, which is just one line. The state shall endeavor to secure for the citizens a uniform civil code throughout the territory of India. Can Gujarat make a law which would be making secure the applicability throughout the territory of India?
Okay.
When the article itself says that uniformity would mean throughout the country. Gujarat can't have a different civil code of conduct and other states would put out. So that by itself is the first fallacy. Now, secondly, now when the Gujarat elections are just round the corner, that you come out with this kind of a gimmick. You want to move the voters and either polarize the society as far as the police is concerned, and you are setting up of the committee or panel is not going to bring in uniform civil code. Please look at the history behind. Number of public interest litigations have been rejected by Supreme Court. And of course, if any uniform civil code is desirable for the country today, then it would be the Parliament of India that would enact this particular, not a particular state legislature. And remember, recently, Law Commission, Supreme Court, Parliament, they all have examined this, and it has been said that the time is not right for considering the implementation of Uniform Civil Code, which is only directive under the Constitution of India. If you want to do it to please some people, if you want to win votes, well, you are most welcome to do it, as you have been doing.
All right. So before I let you go, I then quickly want to ask you, if you said a state in particular cannot go ahead with UCC, then how is it that Goa's situation is different?
See, if a state wants to have a particular role or a particular conduct for the people therein, it cannot certainly, as I read out to you for your benefit, that throughout the territory of India there has to be uniformity. Now, uniformity is defeated if there is diversity. If other states are not following in throughout the territory of India, there is no uniform civil code. So the mandate of Article 44 is not followed. It is belied. There are a number of other complications also which need to be examined. It's the Parliament of India and the Standing Committee for Law and Justice and the Law Commission, and all of them will have to sit and then ensure whether a uniform civil code can be enforced throughout the territory of India as mandated by the Constitution. Don't talk of small states like Goa or Gujarat or BJP ruled states.
All right, Majid Memon, many thanks for speaking with us, sir. Let me now go across to Pramila Nesargi. Pramila Nesargi, the opposition often accuses the BJP of being only on a mission to win elections. An election machine is what they call them. Is this move part of that mission? Because if, if we take a look at a precedent here, Uttarakhand made a similar announcement ahead of the elections.
I can't really understand their objections. When was the constitution enacted? When was Article 44 was enacted? Do you want to keep that article simply in the book, or is that article meant for implementation? Why are this opposition thinking not to implement? I am not thinking as the book of the constitution. What was the constitution assembly debates? Even Munshi said there is provision and it can be implemented. It is for the parliament to implement.
Ma'am, that was not my question, ma'am. My question is that they are saying this is a political move. If this provision exists, then why should it be brought just ahead of polls?
I am just telling you, it is not a political move. Anytime and every time, all the time, at the four corners of the country, one election or the other will be going on. We don't have an election simultaneously. It may be Gujarat today, tomorrow it may be Himachal, so day after tomorrow it may be some other state. But that's not mean on the eve of the election this is brought. It is our right. I, as a woman of this country, I have practiced as an advocate, I can tell you what is our right. What I have come across, difficulties felt by the woman. We see the majority for a Christian, the girl becomes major at the age of 13. A boy becomes 16. Do you want the same thing to be applied here? I just want among the Mohammedans, at the age
but ma'am, Majid Mehman was just making a point that if states implement it separately, then again there is no uniformity, and the idea in the constitution was that there should be uniformity across the country.
What has the state done? They have set up a panel.
Okay, let me go across to the other panelists, ma'am, and then I'll come back to you. Naishadh Desai, could this be in response, the move by BJP, in response to the perceived competition to the BJP, not from your party, but from the Aam Aadmi Party? Naishadh Desai, can you hear me, sir? All right. I don't think he's able to hear us yet. We'll try and go back to him. Syed Asad Abbas, that question to you. Do you think this is coming from the BJP because it sees some sort of competition from the Aam Aadmi Party?
Absolutely, yes. There's nothing but competition. Well, just before me, a BJP spokesperson also mentioned about this and said that this is not political. Well, that's quite a laughable matter. Respective ma'am, it is there in your 2019 political manifesto. So how is it not political? Have you not read the manifesto? The duplicity, hypocrisy and double standards of BJP reminds me of a George Orwellian quote, who once said, all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than the others. Let us understand this. Why does Bharatiya Janata Party always comes into a fifth gear mode or accelerate the momentum just before polls? Why do we see that? Before every poll, Bharatiya Janata Party escalates itself. Why so? Today, Bharatiya Janata Party, more than the powers and the corridors, they're in the office to win elections. You come into election for the people, but you don't do anything about it. You want to give more and more jumlas. This is nothing but a jumla formation and implementation they speak about. Ideas are great, concept is everything, but execution is much greater. Where is the execution? Respective ma'am and respective sirs, last point, ma'am, last point, 30 seconds. Let me tell you, India is a diverse country. Ma'am, it is like my fingers, 5 fingers. Is there uniformity? But together they become one. Every 100 kilometers, this country changes its language, its traditions, its cultures, its rituals. And you want to graft it as a one glove fits all? Absolutely not. There needs to be a much better coming together of sorts. And let me tell you, this is not just anti-Muslim. This is anti-constitution. And when you spoke of directive principles of state policy, it is not enforceable and it is not mandatory. That way I could also put the constitution with the religious right to freedom. What about that? So therefore, we need to understand that Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Isai, Buddhist, and there are also tribal communities which are against this.
All right, let me now go across to Naishadh Desai, and let me first ask him whether he can hear us now. Naishadh Desai, am I audible to you, sir? Naishadh Desai, can you hear me?
Yes, I can listen, madam.
All right. So my question
yes,
is...
I can hear you.
Okay. My question, sir, was to you that is this move from the BJP in response to the competition that not your party is giving at the moment, but the Aam Aadmi Party?
No, it is not there. I'm sorry, I'm not agreeing with you. But one thing, from 1989 onwards, every election before, they are searching an issue which is a very debatable, not only, even it can be not a properly implementing, but they are creating the issue for only purpose of polarization. So this issue, before election, they are taking for clear-cut polarization intention and polarization purpose. They have no thinking of regarding any kind of implementation, or they have no thinking of.
All right. Okay, so both Ashwini Dubey, I want to come to you because both the Congress party,
and this is the issue.
All right. All right, Ashwini Dubey, both the Congress party as well as Asad Abbas just, indicated that this is done with the purpose of just flagging up an issue without any intention to really implement it, and this is a political move. Now, does the BJP feel the need to further consolidate its votes in Gujarat? Can an issue like the UCC, which involves legality, constitution, have the same desired impact as an overtly religious move like that of a Ram temple?
See, Maha, I'm a student of law, and I would see everything from the constitutional and legal perspective. So far as the powers vested with the democratically elected government to legislate a law is concerned, that is at par with the power with the BJP who is ruling the state. Two prominent panelists who were exclusive here, they said that, look, the Uniform Civil Code cannot be implemented in a state. There are finest central legislations dealing with the inheritance, adoption, marriage, divorce, property and succession. So any law which will be made by the state government under Article 44 of the Constitution of India, that necessarily will be derived from the central legislation like Indian Succession Act, like Indian Divorce, like Indian Succession Act, like the Adoption and Marriage Act, like the Hindu Code bills and other laws which are finestly being practiced and propagated in this country. Second, my friend, the Aam Aadmi Party Sayyid said that in 5 kilometers, the religion, the caste and the language changes. See, it's a secular democratic republic and elected public government by the constitution, and the government is elected by the people. India is a secular country governed by the constitution, not Ved Qurans or Bible Quran. The constitution is a scripture to the Indian democracy. It provides every freedom to the citizens and at the same time keeps a check on them so as to maintain public order, health and morality. One of the other discussion was there, Article 25 of the Constitution of India. Indeed, Article 25 secures the right to pray, practice, profess and propagate a religion, but at the same time subject to public order, morality and laws made by the state. If any law which is required in order to bring the uniformity, any law which is creating discrimination among the women and women, any law which is not being given right as a property.
Ashwini Dubey, that is why the point was made earlier on by Faizan Mustafa that maybe then this should be done in a piecemeal manner and more of a consensus-based approach rather than it being made into a political move. The opposition here is saying that they look at it as a political move. Pramila Nesargi, the BJP has the state of Gujarat for 27 years now. Why does it need to make, as the opposition claims, a desperate move in a state in which it already has a stranglehold?
That's not so, madam. Supreme Court has time and again directed. It has observed in various judgments. It is high time that the state must take initiative and then implement. Gujarat might have taken initiative now and Uttarakhand might have said it. But I do not know the previous speaker who said how it can be implemented, how he has been tolerating the law, if it is the Uniform Civil Code, which is in Goa. Has anybody tested? Does anyone say the persons living in Goa, they cannot be implemented? Why? When it is implemented in Goa, why not in other states? Why not in Gujarat? Every state may make an endeavor. I am only sorry, madam, the mindset of men, the speakers also who spoke here, starting from the Ambedkar, when Constitutional Assembly debate started, even then, Hindus also said, no, Uniform Civil Code. Then also they said, they wanted the Muslim law to be implemented. Then Muslims said, no, we want one wife. That was there. But now, all these men, they want at all time to have liberty to have as many wives they want. That's the reason why they are opposing. It may be Hindus that
Ma'am, we are reducing this. We are reducing this discussion to one aspect of so many other aspects that are going to be impacted or affected by UCC. I'll come back to you. Let me go across to Mr. Naishadh Desai once again. Naishadh Desai, does the BJP's repeated moves of pulling a rabbit out of the hat ahead of polls frustrate the opposition?
I am only telling you, we as women of this country.
Just a second, ma'am. Let Mr. Naishadh Desai respond, and Pramila ji, I'll come back to you if we have time. Naishadh Desai.
Please, ma'am, pardon, please. Repeat, please.
Sir,
Sorry.
is it frustrating for the opposition to see the BJP just ahead of polls pull a rabbit out of the hat each time?
That is their clear intention, but this time they will be not success for this issue, definitely. That is their intention, but they will never success on this issue, this time.
And why do you say that?
Now, after the, we are waiting for 2 days because election, when their declaration will come, that time they will make this issue more and more, because in Uttarakhand they have made this, it was totally failed there. So now they cannot, whatever the situation, they cannot implement it, but they want to just make a dispute and quarrel.
All right,
between
but the question,
opposition
sir,
and
remains, how will the opposition be able to counter that? Because while you're saying that this is a political move ahead of the elections, the BJP says that we've always asked for 3 broad issues to be settled, and that was Ram Temple, Article 370 and UCC. So they are making that as the grounds for this move coming ahead of elections. Nonetheless, many thanks to all our panelists for joining us here on the show this evening.